Li stood perfectly still in the corner of the grand hall. He had learned long ago that stillness was a kind of armor. When you did not move, people forgot you were there. And when people forgot you were there, they showed you who they really were. The grand hall of the Obsidian Palace was the largest room had ever seen. The ceiling rose so high that clouds sometimes formed near the top. The walls were made of black stone that shone like glass, and everywhere looked there were. They were giants. The smallest of them stood 7 feet tall. Their skin was the color of silver, and they had 4 eyes, 2 large ones in the front and 2 smaller ones on the sides of their heads. Their bodies were built for war, thick muscles, long arms, hands that could crush a human skull like an egg. Was 5 feet 10 inches tall. Among his own people he was average. Here he was a child standing among monsters. But he did not feel fear. He had stopped feeling fear a long time ago. The War Council was in session. 20 warlords sat around a curved table made of bone, real bone from some great beast that had died 1,000 years ago. At the head of the table sat Queen. She was different from the others, still tall, still silver-skinned, still powerful, but there was something softer in her face, something that looked almost like kindness. Her 4 eyes moved slowly across the room, watching everything and everyone. Warlord was speaking. He was the largest in the room, and his voice was like thunder rolling across mountains. "They grow bold," he said. "They test our borders, they raid our outposts, and what do? We send diplomats, we send words." He slammed his fist on the table. The bone cracked. "Words do not win wars, blood wins wars." Several warlords nodded. Their eyes were hungry, they wanted battle. Queen raised her hand. The room fell silent. "War is easy," she said. Her voice was calm and clear. "Any fool can start a war, but can you end one? Can you count the bodies? Can you feed the widows and the orphans?" She looked around the table. "I have seen the reports. A war with the wood cost us 3 million soldiers, 3 million families destroyed. And for what? A few border planets that produce nothing of value." His face twisted with anger. "You speak like a merchant, not a queen. Our ancestors conquered half the galaxy. They did not count costs. They took what they wanted." "Our ancestors also destroyed themselves," the queen replied. "Twice. I do not intend to make it 3 times." The room erupted. Warlords shouted over each other. Some supported the queen. Most did not. Watched it all from his corner, his face showing nothing. He noticed that Commander, the head of the royal guard, was not defending his queen. He stood behind her throne with his arms crossed, his 4 eyes looking at the floor. That was strange. A guard should watch for threats. A guard should be alert, but looked like a man waiting for something. Filed this information away in his mind. He would think about it later. The council ended without agreement. The warlords, left in groups, still arguing, was the last to go. He stopped at the door and looked back at the queen. "You will see, Majesty," he said. "Weakness invites destruction, it always does." Then he was gone. The queen sat alone on her throne. Her guards stood around the room like statues, remained in his corner waiting to be dismissed. But the queen did not dismiss him. Instead, she stood and walked toward him. Felt every eye in the room turn to watch. Guards shifted uncomfortably. A queen did not speak to foreign soldiers. It was not done. Queen stopped in front of him. She was almost 2 feet taller than him. She looked down with all 4 of her eyes, studying him like a scientist studying a strange insect. "You are the human," she said. "Yes, Majesty." "You stood very still during the council, even when shouted and broke the table. My own guard stepped back. You did not move." Considered his answer carefully. "Loud voices do not scare me, Majesty. Only the quiet threats do." Something flickered in her eyes, interest perhaps, or surprise. "The quiet threats. The ones who shout want you to be afraid. They need your fear. But the ones who stay quiet, they are planning. They do not need your fear. They already know what they will do." The queen was silent for a long moment, then she almost smiled. "You are observant, human, more observant than most." "I try to be, Majesty." She nodded slowly. "What is your name?" "Lee." "Lee," she repeated. The name sounded strange in her mouth, but she said it with respect. "I will remember that." She turned and walked away. Her guards followed, was left alone in the empty hall. That night sat in his small room in the soldiers' quarters. It was the worst room in the building, small, cold, and far from the kitchens. The had made it clear that he was not welcome here. He was a symbol of the alliance with Earth, nothing more, a decoration. He did not mind. He had slept in worse places. He took out a small photograph from his pocket. It was old and worn. The colors had faded, but he could still see the face clearly. His brother, Lee, 22 years old when the picture was taken. Smiling, always smiling. He had been the bright one, the hopeful one. Was the serious older brother, always worried, always planning. Was the one who made everyone laugh. Had died 4 years ago. A colony raid. Pirates attacked a civilian transport. Was a medic, not a soldier. But when the shooting started, he had grabbed a weapon and stood between the pirates and the passengers. He had saved 11 people before a plasma bolt took him in the chest. Had been 3 star systems away, chasing a promotion, building his career. He had received the news 2 days later in a cold military office from an officer who could not even pronounce his brother's name correctly. He had not cried. He had not screamed. He had simply sat there, feeling something inside him turn to stone. He had made a promise that day. A promise to himself, to whatever gods might be listening. He would never let someone stand alone again. Never. Looked at the photograph for a long time. Then he put it away and lay down on his hard bed. Somewhere in the palace, Warlord was meeting with Commander. They spoke in whispers in a room with no windows. "The queen grows too soft," said. "The Dominion needs strength. It needs a true leader." Nodded slowly. "The eclipse ceremony is in 3 days. The palace will be dark. The crowds will be distracted." Smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "Then we move in 3 days." The conspiracy had begun, and Lee, the small human in the corner, was the only one who had noticed the cracks forming in the stone. The next 3 days passed slowly. Watched. He listened. And the more he saw, the more worried he became. Small things at first. Guards changing positions without orders. Officers meeting in empty hallways and going silent when anyone walked past. Weapons being moved from the main armory to smaller storage rooms throughout the palace. Knew the signs. He had seen them before on a dozen different worlds. This was what conspiracy looked like. This was what betrayal looked like before it happened. He tried to report his concerns. The human liaison officer at the embassy was a man named Director. He was a diplomat, not a soldier. He wore expensive suits and smiled too much. "You are imagining things," said, waving his hand dismissively. "They have protected their queens for 10,000 years. They do not need a human soldier telling them how to do their jobs." "Something is wrong," insisted. "The guards are acting strange. There are secret meetings." "Enough," smile disappeared. "You are here as a symbol, a gesture of friendship between Earth and the Dominion. You are not here to cause trouble. Do your job, stand in corners, look impressive, and stop bothering me with paranoid fantasies." Left the embassy feeling the weight of frustration in his chest. He was right. He knew he was right, but no one would listen. To them, he was just a small human playing soldier in a world of giants. That afternoon, something unexpected happened. A palace servant approached with a message. The queen requested his presence in the royal gardens. Was confused. Queens did not meet with foreign soldiers. It was against every protocol, but he could not refuse a royal summons. The royal gardens were beautiful. Strange alien flowers bloomed in colors that did not exist on Earth. Trees with silver leaves made soft music when the wind blew through them. A small river of crystal-clear water flowed through the center, filled with fish that glowed like living gems. Queen stood alone by the water. No guards, no servants, just her, watching the fish swim in slow circles. She turned when she heard approach. "You came. You summoned me, Majesty." "I asked, I did not summon, there is a difference." She gestured for him to stand beside her. "Walk with me." They walked along the river in silence for a while, did not know what to say. He was a soldier, not a diplomat. Small talk was not his strength. Finally the Queen spoke. "Tell me about Earth." Thought for a moment. "It is small. Compared to Prime, it is very small. Blue oceans, green lands, white clouds. It is beautiful in its way." "And your people, humans?" "We are complicated," searched for the right words. "We fight each other. We always have. Wars over land, over resources, over ideas. We nearly destroyed ourselves many times." "But you survived." "Yes, somehow we always survive." He paused. "We break easily, our bodies are weak. We do not live very long, but we heal, and we remember. Every scar teaches us what to protect next time." The Queen considered this. "My warlords think humans are primitives, weak creatures who stumbled into space by accident. They say the alliance with Earth makes the Dominion look weak." "What do you think, Majesty?" She looked at him with all four of her eyes. "I think any species that has survived as many disasters as humanity must have something special inside them. Something that cannot be measured by the size of their bodies or the strength of their weapons." They walked in silence again. The silver leaves sang above them. "May I ask you something, Majesty?" said. "You may." "Why did you invite me here? I am nobody, a symbol as director keeps reminding me. Why speak to me?" The Queen stopped walking. She looked up at the sky where the twin suns were beginning to set. "Because I am surrounded by people who want something from me," she said quietly. "The warlords want war, the diplomats want treaties, the merchants want trade agreements, everyone wants something." She looked back but you want nothing. You just stand in corners and watch. You have no agenda, no ambition, and that makes you refreshing." "I am a soldier, Majesty. I go where I am told. I do what I am ordered to do." "Is that all?" Was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I am also a man who keeps his word. When I make a promise, I keep it. That is all I have left." "All you have left?" She tilted her head, curious. "What did you lose?" The question hit like a blade in the chest. For a moment he saw his face, the smile, the kindness, the empty grave on earth that he had never visited. "Someone I should have protected," he said. "Someone I failed." The Queen did not ask more questions. She simply nodded, as if she understood. "I feel the walls closing in," she said suddenly. "My warlords push for war. My advisors tell me to be strong, to show power. But power for what? To kill more people, to burn more worlds." She shook her head. "I became queen to protect my people, not to destroy other people's children for glory." "That is not weakness," said. "That is wisdom." She looked at him. "You truly believe that?" "Yes." For a moment something passed between them. Not romance, not friendship, something rarer. Understanding. Two people who carried heavy weights, recognizing the same tired look in each other's eyes. "You should be careful, Lee," the Queen said. "Not everyone in this palace is what they seem." "I know," he replied. "I have been watching." "And what have you seen?" He hesitated, then he told her. The strange guard rotations, the secret meetings, the weapons being moved, Commander's odd behavior. The Queen listened without interrupting. When he finished, her face was pale. "You think there is a conspiracy against me?" "I think something is wrong, Majesty. I cannot prove it, but I feel it." She was silent for a long time. Then she said, "The eclipse ceremony is tomorrow night. The whole planet will be watching. If someone wanted to move against me, that would be the time." "Then cancel the ceremony." "I cannot. It is sacred. If I cancel it out of fear, I prove my enemies right. I prove that I am weak. She straightened her shoulders. I will not hide. Wanted to argue, but he saw the steel in her eyes. This was not a woman who ran from danger. Then I will be there, he said. Whatever happens, I will be there. She looked at him for a long moment. Then she reached out and touched his shoulder. Her hand was large and silver and surprisingly gentle. Thank you, Lee, for telling me, for seeing me. She walked away, leaving him alone in the garden. The silver leaves sang their strange song. The glowing fish swam in endless circles. And somewhere in the palace, Commander received a final message from Warlord. Tomorrow night, when the suns die, we take the throne. The trap was set. The ceremony would begin in less than 24 hours, and Lee, the small human who no one took seriously, was the only one standing between the queen and destruction. The eclipse ceremony was the most sacred night in culture. Once every 3 years, the great moon passed between the planet and its twin suns. For 1 hour, darkness covered the world. They believed this was a time of renewal, when the old died and the new was born. The obsidian throne room had been transformed. Thousands of candles floated in the air, held aloft by invisible technology. Their flames were blue and silver, casting strange shadows on the walls. The bone table had been removed. In its place stood a massive altar of black crystal. Citizens filled the room, nobles in fine clothes, merchants showing off their wealth, common people in simple robes. All of them had come to witness the queen perform the sacred blessing. Stood at the edge of the crowd. He wore his formal uniform, black and silver, the colors of the human military. He had no weapons. Security was strict, and foreign soldiers were not allowed to carry arms inside the ceremony. But had found a way. A small knife was hidden in his boot. A plasma pistol was strapped under his jacket. Breaking the rules felt wrong, but surviving felt more important. He watched everything. The guards positioned around the room, the exits, the shadows where someone could hide. He counted 40 royal guards, all loyal to Commander. If his suspicions were correct, every one of them was part of the conspiracy. 40 against 1. Those were bad odds, very bad odds. But had faced worse. Queen entered the room and the crowd fell silent. She wore ceremonial robes of pure white, the color of peace in culture. A crown of silver sat on her head. She looked powerful and beautiful and terribly alone. She walked to the altar and raised her hands. Her voice filled the room. We gather as our ancestors gathered. In darkness we find truth. In shadow we find light. When the suns die, we remember that death is not the end. It is the beginning. The crowd repeated her words like a prayer. His eyes moved constantly. He saw Commander standing behind the throne, his hand resting on his weapon. He saw Warlord at the front of the crowd, his 4 eyes fixed on the queen. He saw guards slowly shifting positions, moving toward the exits. Something was about to happen. He could feel it in his bones. The queen continued the ceremony. She spoke of peace and renewal. She blessed the crowd. She prayed for the Dominion and its people. Then the lights went out. Not just the candles, everything. The floating flames, the glow panels in the walls, even the emergency lights. The room was plunged into complete darkness. For a moment there was confusion. People murmured. Some laughed nervously. This was the eclipse after all. Darkness was expected. Then the explosion started. The outer walls of the palace shook. The sound of plasma fire echoed from distant corridors. Screams rose from outside the throne room. The crowd panicked. People pushed toward the exits, but the doors were locked. They were trapped. Lights flickered back on emergency red. In the crimson glow, saw soldiers pouring into the room. They were not royal guards. They wore the black armor of personal warriors. Commander stepped forward. His voice boomed across the chaos. Citizens of the Dominion, the Queen has failed you. She has shown weakness in the face of our enemies. She has shamed the memory of our ancestors. Queen stood frozen at the altar. Her face was pale, but her eyes were steady. Continued. By the authority of the War Council, I declare Queen unfit to rule. Warlord will take the throne and restore the dominion to glory. Stepped forward, drawing his ceremonial sword. He smiled like a predator that had cornered its prey. Kneel before your new master, he commanded. And they did. The royal guards, all 40 of them, dropped to one knee. The nobles bowed their heads. The merchants fell to the floor. Even the common people knelt, too afraid to do anything else. Everyone knelt. Everyone except Lee. He stood alone in a sea of bowing bodies, small, human, unarmed as far as anyone knew. Noticed him, his 4 eyes narrowed. What is this? The human pet thinks he can stand against the Dominion. Said nothing. He was already moving, pushing through the crowd toward the altar, toward the Queen. 2 soldiers moved to stop him. The first one reached out to grab his shoulder, ducked under the arm, pulled the knife from his boot, and drove it into the gap between the soldier's armor plates. The fell with a grunt of surprise. The second soldier swung a massive fist, rolled under it, came up behind him and slashed the tendons at the back of his knee. The giant collapsed. The crowd gasped, 2 warriors taken down by a human in seconds. Reached the Queen and grabbed her arm. We need to go, now. Human roared, you dare. Pulled the plasma pistol from under his jacket and fired at the ceiling. The shot hit a chandelier, and tons of crystal came crashing down between them and soldiers. In the confusion, pulled the Queen toward the ceremonial exit, a small door behind the altar that led to the private royal chambers. The tunnels, the Queen gasped as they ran. Below the palace, I know the way. They burst through the door and into a dark corridor. Behind them, they could hear screaming orders. Soldiers were already following. And the Queen ran through twisting passages, down ancient stairs, deeper and deeper into the palace. The Queen knew the path. She had explored these tunnels as a child, when the palace was a playground instead of a prison. They reached a heavy stone door. The Queen pressed her hand against it, and it recognized her blood, her right to rule. The door opened. Beyond was darkness. The tunnels beneath the palace, older than the Dominion itself, carved by some forgotten civilization thousands of years ago. They stepped inside. The door closed behind them. For a moment, there was only the sound of their breathing. The Queen's hand was trembling, realized he was still holding her arm. He let go. Are you hurt? No, she swallowed. They took everything, the guards, the nobles, everyone I trusted. Not everyone. She looked at him. In the darkness, her 4 eyes glowed faintly, like distant stars. Why? She asked. Why did you stay? You owe me nothing. You owe my people less than nothing. They treat you like an insect. Was quiet for a moment. Then he said, I made a promise once, to myself, that I would never let someone stand alone again, not if I could help it. A promise to whom? To my brother. He died protecting strangers. I was not there to help him. His voice was steady, but there was old pain beneath the words. I cannot change the past, but I can make sure the future is different. The Queen stared at him. This small creature, this human, was risking everything for a promise to a ghost. You are strange, Lee, she said softly. I know. Somewhere above them they heard boots, voices. Hunters were coming. Checked his pistol, half a charge left. His knife was still in his hand, still wet with blood. We need to keep moving, he said. Is there a way out of these tunnels? There is a passage that leads to the outer hangar, but it is far, hours of walking. Then we walk, he looked at her. Can you do this? Can you keep going? The Queen straightened her shoulders. Fear was still in her eyes, but so was something else. Determination. I am the Queen of the Dominion, she said. I will not die hiding in a hole like a frightened animal. Lead the way, Lee. Allowed himself a small smile. Then they walked into the darkness together, the sound of hunters echoing behind them. The eclipse had begun, and before it ended, the Dominion would be changed forever. The tunnels beneath the obsidian palace were ancient. The walls were carved with symbols that no one could read anymore. Strange lights glowed in cracks in the stone, some kind of living fungus that had survived for thousands of years in the darkness. And Queen walked for hours. The sounds of pursuit faded behind them, but they did not slow down. Every shadow could hide a soldier. Every corner could be an ambush. The Queen knew the tunnels from her childhood, but many passages had collapsed over the years. Twice, they had to turn back and find another way. Time was their enemy, and it was winning. After 3 hours, the Queen stumbled. Caught her before she fell. In the dim light, he saw blood on her arm, a deep cut running from her elbow to her wrist. She must have been injured during the escape, but she had said nothing. "Why did you not tell me you were hurt?" asked. "It is nothing." She tried to stand, but her legs gave out. "I just need a moment." Helped her sit against the tunnel wall. He pulled the medical kit from his belt, standard issue for human soldiers, and examined the wound. It was bad. The blade had cut deep. She was losing blood. "This will hurt," he warned. Then he cleaned the wound with antiseptic. The Queen made no sound. Her 4 eyes closed and her jaw tightened, but she did not cry out. She was stronger than she looked. Wrapped the wound with bandages. It was not perfect, but it would stop the bleeding. "You carry medicine with you," the Queen said, "even to a ceremony." "I carry everything I might need, always." "You expected trouble." "I expect trouble everywhere. It is how I have stayed alive." She watched him work with curious eyes. "You are different from other humans I have met." The diplomats smile and bow and say pretty words. "You say nothing unless it matters. You carry weapons where weapons are forbidden. You fight like you have done it 1,000 times." "I was a soldier before I was a diplomat's decoration." "What kind of soldier?" Finished tying the bandage. "The kind that goes where others will not go. The kind that does the jobs no one wants to talk about." "A killer?" "Sometimes." He met her eyes. "Is that a problem, Majesty?" She considered this for a long moment. Then she said, "Tonight, it is the opposite of a problem." They rested in silence. The tunnel was cold and damp, but after hours of walking, even the hard stone floor felt welcoming. "Tell me about your brother," the Queen said suddenly. Looked at her. He did not talk about, not to anyone. The pain was too close, even after 4 years. But something in the Queen's eyes made him want to speak. Maybe it was the darkness. Maybe it was the knowledge that they might both die tonight. Or maybe he was just tired of carrying the weight alone. "His name was Lee," said. "He was 6 years younger than me, always smiling, always happy. I was the serious one, the planner, the worrier. He was the one who made everyone laugh." "He sounds kind." "He was the kindest person I ever knew. When we were children, he would bring home injured animals and nurse them back to health. Stray cats, birds with broken wings. Once, a dog that had been hit by a vehicle. He could not stand to see anything suffer." The Queen listened without speaking. Her eyes never left his face. "He became a medic. He wanted to help people, to heal them. He did not want to fight." His voice grew quieter. 4 years ago, the transport ship he was on was attacked by pirates. They were targeting civilians, easy targets. "What happened?" "Grabbed a weapon. He had never fired one in his life, but he stood in front of the passengers and told the pirates they would have to go through him." Swallowed. "He saved 11 people, 11 strangers who he had never met. He protected them until the last second. And then a plasma bolt hit him in the chest. He died before help arrived." The tunnel was silent, except for the distant drip of water. "Where were you?" the Queen asked gently. 3 star systems away, chasing a promotion, building my career." The words tasted like poison in his mouth. "I received the news 2 days later in a cold office from an officer who could not even say his name right." The queen reached out and touched his hand. Her silver fingers were cold but gentle. It was not your fault. I should have been there. I was his older brother. I was supposed to protect him. You cannot be everywhere. You cannot save everyone. I know, looked at her, but I can be here now. I can protect you. Is that why you stayed? Because of your brother? Partly, and partly because, he searched for the words. You are good, Majesty. In a galaxy full of warlords and tyrants and people who only care about power, you want peace. You want to protect your people, not sacrifice them for glory. That is rare. That is worth protecting. The queen was silent for a long moment. Then she said, I have been queen for 5 years. In that time I have been told I am weak 1,000 times, too soft, too merciful, not worthy of the throne. She met his eyes. You are the first person who has told me that my way is worth something. Then your advisors are fools. She almost smiled. Perhaps they are. They sat together in the darkness, two people from different worlds, carrying different wounds, finding something unexpected in each other's company. Finally stood. We need to keep moving. Can you walk? The queen rose carefully, testing her injured arm. It hurt, but the bleeding had stopped. I can walk. I can run if needed. Good, the hangar cannot be far now. They continued through the tunnels. The path grew wider, and the ancient symbols on the walls became more frequent. They were getting close to the surface. Then heard something, footsteps, many of them coming from ahead. He held up his hand, and the queen stopped. They are in front of us, he whispered. They must have found another way down. Is there another path? I do not know these tunnels like you do. The queen closed her eyes, thinking. There is a junction ahead. 3 tunnels meet there. If they are coming from the main passage, we might be able to take the eastern tunnel. It is longer, but it also leads to the hangar. Show me. They crept forward, staying close to the walls, moving in silence. The junction appeared ahead, a wide chamber where 3 tunnels came together. And in that chamber saw them. 15 warriors, elite soldiers in black armor carrying plasma rifles and energy blades. Personal hunters, the best fighters in the Dominion. They were searching the tunnels systematically. It was only a matter of time before they found the passage, and the queen were hiding in. Looked at the queen. Then he looked at the eastern tunnel on the far side of the chamber, 20 meters away. They would have to cross open ground to reach it. Stay here, he said quietly. What are you going to do? I am going to buy you time. He pulled out his plasma pistol and checked the charge, still half full. When I start shooting, run for the eastern tunnel. Do not stop. Do not look back. You will die. Maybe, but you will live. He looked at her. Get to the hangar. Send a distress signal to the human outpost. My friend will come. She will help you. The queen shook her head. I will not leave you. Majesty. I said no. Her voice was firm. I am tired of people dying for me while I run and hide. If we fight together. You are injured. You are unarmed. You will die. Then I will die as a queen should, standing. She raised her chin. I am not leaving you, Lee. Do not ask me again. Stared at her. This stubborn, foolish, magnificent woman was going to get herself killed. And he could not think of a single argument that would change her mind. Fine, he said. Stay behind me. If I fall, take my weapon and keep fighting. She nodded. Took a deep breath. Then he stepped into the chamber and raised his pistol. The battle was about to begin. The first shot hit the lead hunter in the throat before he even knew was there. The fell choking on his own blood. His companions spun toward the sound, raising their weapons. Was already moving. He fired twice more, hitting 2 soldiers in the gaps of their armor. Then he threw himself behind a stone pillar as plasma bolts scorched the air where he had been standing. Human, one of the hunters shouted, surrender and your death will be quick. Did not answer, he was counting. 15 soldiers total, 3 down, 12 remaining. The pillar shook as plasma fire struck it. The ancient stone was cracking. It would not last long. Glanced at the queen. She had pressed herself against the tunnel wall, her face pale but determined. She was watching him, waiting for instructions. He held up his hand. Stay there. She nodded. The hunters were spreading out, trying to flank him. They were smart. They knew a single pillar could not protect him forever. Knew it too. He checked his pistol. 4 shots left, not enough. So he would have to get closer. He waited for a gap in the firing. 1 second, 2 seconds. The hunters were reloading. Ran. He crossed the open ground faster than they expected. A human should not move that quickly. A human should be slow and clumsy and easy to hit. But was not like other humans. He slammed into the nearest hunter before the soldier could raise his weapon. His knife found the gap between helmet and neck armor. The dropped. 2 more soldiers swung toward him. Ducked under the first plasma shot, rolled past the second soldier, and came up behind him. He drove his knife into the back of the soldier's knee, then grabbed the falling body and used it as a shield. 3 shots hit the corpse, pushed it forward into the shooters, and fired his pistol. 2 more hunters fell. The remaining 7 soldiers pulled back, regrouping. They looked at the human with new eyes. This was not what they had expected. "What are you?" one of them breathed. Stood in the center of the chamber, blood on his face, knife in one hand, pistol in the other. Bodies lay around him. He was breathing hard, but his eyes were calm. "I am just a human," he said. "We do not know when to quit." The hunters charged. They came at him together this time, 7 massive warriors, each one twice his size, armed and armored and trained to kill. Threw his empty pistol at the first one's face. It struck the soldier's helmet, not hard enough to hurt, but hard enough to make him flinch. That flinch was all needed. He ducked under the soldier's swing, slashed his knife across the back of this leg, and moved to the next opponent. A fist the size of his head swung toward him. He twisted away, feeling the wind of the blow against his cheek. He could not match them for strength. He could not match them for speed, but he could read their movements. He could see where they were going before they got there, and he could make them pay for every mistake. An energy blade caught him across the ribs. Pain exploded through his side. He ignored it. A plasma graze burned his shoulder. He kept fighting. He killed another hunter, then another. The remaining soldiers hesitated. 4 of their comrades were dead. This tiny human, this insect, was cutting them down like grass. "Rush him together," the leader shouted. "He cannot fight us all at once." They attacked as one. Took a hit to the chest. Something cracked, a rib, maybe 2. He stumbled. A boot caught him in the side and sent him flying. He hit the ground hard, rolling to avoid the stomp that came next. Blood was in his mouth. His vision was blurring, but he got back up. He always got back up. He blocked a blade with his forearm, feeling the metal bite into his flesh. He drove his knife into the soldier's eye and pulled it out as the body fell. 3 hunters left. One of them grabbed from behind, lifting him off the ground. Could not breathe. The arms around his chest were crushing him. He drove his head backward, smashing his skull into the soldier's face. The grip loosened, twisted free, and slashed his knife across the soldier's throat. 2 hunters left. They looked at each other. They looked at the human standing in a pile of their dead friends. Blood was pouring from a dozen wounds on his body. He was swaying on his feet. One good hit would finish him. But they did not attack. Instead, they ran. They turned and fled down the tunnel, abandoning their mission, abandoning their pride. They ran from one wounded human who would not fall. Watched them go, then his legs gave out. He collapsed against the tunnel wall, sliding down until he was sitting in a pool of blood, some of it his, most of it not. His chest was on fire. Every breath was agony. The queen emerged from hiding. Her 4 eyes were wide with something could not read. Horror, awe, both. She knelt beside him, her hands trembling. Lee, can you hear me? Still here, he managed. His voice was barely a whisper. You need a doctor, you need. She looked around helplessly. They were in the middle of ancient tunnels, hours from any help. You are going to die. Probably. Do not say that, her voice cracked. You cannot die, not for me, not like this. Looked at her. Even now, even bleeding out on the cold stone floor, he felt strangely peaceful. I made a promise, he said, to my brother that I would never let someone stand alone again. He tried to smile, but it came out as a grimace. I kept it, that is all that matters. Your promise does not require your death. Sometimes it does. The queen was crying. Silver tears ran down her silver face. She had probably not cried in years. Queens were not supposed to cry. But she cried now. You foolish, stubborn, impossible human, she whispered. You cannot die. I will not allow it. Do you hear me? That is a royal command. Despite everything, laughed. It hurt terribly, but he laughed anyway. I will try my best, Majesty. She pressed her hands against the worst of his wounds, trying to stop the bleeding. Her medical knowledge was limited, but she did what she could. The communication relay, she said suddenly. You sent a signal before to your friend. Yes, but I do not know if she received it. How long until help arrives? Hours, maybe more. The queen looked at the tunnel ahead, then she looked at. Then I will carry you. Majesty, you cannot. I can and I will. She pulled his arm over her shoulder and lifted him to his feet. She was injured too, but was strong, stronger than humans. This is undignified, muttered. So is dying in a hole. Now walk, Lee, walk, and I will hold you up. We will reach the hangar together or we will fall together. There is no other option. Slowly, painfully, they began to move. The queen supporting the human, the ruler carrying the soldier who had saved her life. Behind them, the bodies of hunters lay in the darkness. Ahead, an uncertain future waited. But they were alive. Against all odds, they were still alive. And Lee, for the first time in 4 years, felt like he had done something right. They moved through the tunnels like ghosts. The queen half-carried, her injured arm screaming in protest with every step. He drifted in and out of consciousness, his blood leaving a trail behind them on the ancient stone floor. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time had lost all meaning. Finally, they reached a junction that the queen recognized. A small chamber with a glowing panel set into the wall. Communication relay, she gasped. Emergency system. It connects to the palace network. She lowered carefully against the wall. His face was pale as snow and his breathing was shallow. He did not have much time left. But the queen had an idea. She pressed her hand against the panel. It flickered to life, recognizing her royal signature. What are you doing? Asked weakly. Something I should have done a long time ago. She accessed the Dominion's emergency broadcast system. Every screen on Prime, every ship in the fleet, every soldier wearing a communication device. All of them would hear her voice. All of them would see her face. She took a deep breath, then she spoke. Citizens of the Dominion, this is your queen. Her face appeared on a million screens. In the palace, where sat on the stolen throne. In the barracks, where soldiers wondered if they had chosen the right side. In homes across the planet, where families huddled in fear. You have been told that I am weak, that I am unfit to rule, that Warlord is the leader the Dominion needs. Her voice was calm and clear. I am here to tell you the truth. In the palace throne room jumped to his feet. Shut down the broadcast. But the technicians could not. The queen had used emergency codes that could not be. The queen continued speaking. Warlord has committed treason. He attacked me during the sacred eclipse ceremony. He murdered loyal soldiers. He tried to seize power through violence and deception. Across the planet, people listened. Soldiers stopped what they were doing. Officers looked at each other with uncertain eyes. But that is not the worst of his crimes. The Queen's voice grew harder. I have proof that has made a secret alliance with the Federation, the same enemy he claims we must destroy. He has promised them 3 border systems in exchange for their support. He was going to sell your homes, your families, your lives for personal power. In the throne room's face twisted with rage. Lies, she speaks lies. But the soldiers around him were no longer looking at him with respect. They were looking at him with doubt. The Queen held up a data crystal to the camera. This contains the communications between and the ambassador, names, dates, details of the agreement. It was hidden in his private chambers, but I have eyes everywhere. She smiled coldly. You forgot, I have been queen for 5 years. I know every secret in this palace. The broadcast cut to the documents. Proof, undeniable proof. Across the Dominion, the reaction was immediate. Commanders who had supported the coup began issuing new orders. Soldiers who had followed laid down their weapons. The betrayal had been exposed, and no one wanted to be on the losing side. The Queen spoke one final time. I am alive. I am still your queen, and I call upon all loyal citizens of the Dominion to stand against this traitor. Justice will be done. The broadcast ended. In the throne room stood alone. The soldiers around him had stepped back. Commander was nowhere to be seen. He had already fled, knowing the game was over. His eyes burned with fury. If he was going to fall, he would not fall alone. Find her, he snarled at the few soldiers still loyal to him. I want the Queen's head. He led the remaining hunters into the tunnels himself. Down below, the Queen slumped against the wall next to. You did it, he said weakly. You destroyed him. Not yet, he is still alive, and he is coming for us. Tried to stand. His body refused. I cannot fight anymore, he admitted. The words tasted like defeat. I am sorry, Majesty. You have done enough. She took his hand in hers. You have done more than anyone could ask. They heard footsteps in the tunnel, heavy boots, many of them. The Queen stood and moved in front of. She had no weapon. She had no armor, but she stood between him and the darkness, just as he had stood between her and the hunters. Emerged from the shadows, his face was twisted with madness. Behind him came 6 soldiers, the last of his loyal forces. You think a broadcast changes anything, spat. You think words can stop me. I will kill you, put your body on display, and tell the people you died in the chaos. History is written by the winners, Your Majesty. Then write your history, the Queen said calmly. But know this, the human behind me killed 12 of your best warriors, alone, wounded. I wonder how many more of your soldiers are willing to die before they reach us. The soldiers behind shifted uncomfortably. They had heard the reports. They had seen the bodies. Laughed. The human is barely breathing. Look at him. He is done. He stepped forward, raising his ceremonial blade. Any last words, Your Majesty? The Queen did not answer. She simply stared at him with all 4 eyes, defiant to the end. Swung the blade, and with the last of his strength, threw himself in the way. The blade meant for the Queen struck in the chest instead. He felt the metal pierce his flesh, scrape against bone, and exit through his back. The pain was beyond anything he had ever felt. But he smiled, because above them the ceiling was shaking. A massive explosion tore through the tunnel roof. Light poured in, real light, not the dim glow of fungus. The roar of engines filled the air. A shuttle crashed through the opening. Human shuttle, Earth Coalition markings. His voice boomed through the loudspeakers. This is Earth Coalition Rescue Team Gamma. Lay down your weapons immediately. Human Marines poured out of the shuttle. Real soldiers, heavily armed, moving with precision. They surrounded its forces in seconds. Stared in disbelief. Humans, you brought humans. I sent a signal, whispered. Blood was bubbling from his lips. Hours ago told you would come." The queen caught him as he fell. She pressed her hands against the wound, but there was too much blood, too much damage. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no, you cannot die. Not now, not when we have won." Ran toward them. Her face was pale when she saw. "Stay with me." She dropped to her knees beside him, pulling out medical supplies. "We need a medical pod now." Marines surrounded. He looked at the weapons pointed at him, at the loyal soldiers who had surrendered, at the queen holding the dying human. "This is not over," he snarled. "Yes, it is." The queen's voice was ice. "Take him." As was dragged away, the queen turned back too. His eyes were closing. "Stay awake," she commanded. "That is an order. You do not have permission to die." His lips moved. He was trying to say something. The queen leaned closer. He whispered, "Tell him I finally kept my promise." Then his eyes closed and he was still. Was shouting orders. Marines were carrying toward the shuttle. Medical equipment was being prepared. But the queen just knelt there, silver tears streaming down her face, staring at the place where he had fallen. This small, stubborn, impossible human had saved her life, had saved her throne, had given everything he had for someone he barely knew. And she did not even know if he would survive the night. Lee opened his eyes to white light. For a moment he thought he was dead. The afterlife perhaps, or maybe just nothingness. Either would have been acceptable. But then he felt pain, a dull ache in his chest, a stiffness in his limbs, and he knew he was alive. The dead did not hurt this much. He was lying in a healing chamber. The technology was far beyond anything Earth possessed. Organic machines worked beneath his skin, repairing damage, rebuilding tissue. He could feel them moving inside him, strange and uncomfortable but undeniably effective. A face appeared above him, 4 eyes, silver skin, a crown of woven metal. "Queen!" "You are awake," she said. Her voice was soft, almost gentle. "I was beginning to wonder if you would ever open your eyes again." Tried to speak. His throat was dry and raw. How long?" 3 weeks. You were very close to death when they brought you here. The blade punctured your lung and nicked your heart. A human doctor said it was a miracle you survived the first hour." She paused. "I ordered the best physicians in the Dominion to save you. I told them I did not care about cost. I told them if they let you die, I would personally see to their punishment." Managed a weak smile. "That seems extreme." "I am the queen. I am allowed to be extreme." She sat beside his bed. It was strange, a queen sitting with a common soldier, but nothing about their relationship was normal. "What happened?" asked. "The coup." "Finished, is in chains awaiting trial. Commander was captured trying to flee the planet. The soldiers who followed them have been arrested." She looked at her hands. "The broadcast worked. When the people saw proof of treachery, support for the coup collapsed. By morning, loyalist forces had retaken the palace." "And the Dominion?" "Recovering, it will take time. There are still those who think I am weak, who believe was right." She met his eyes. "But fewer than before. Your actions changed many minds." "My actions?" "Word has spread, Lee, the story of the human who stood alone against hunters. The soldier who killed 12 warriors by himself, then threw himself in front of a blade meant for his queen." She smiled slightly. "You have become something of a legend." Was quiet for a moment. He did not feel like a legend. He felt tired and broken and very, very small. "I just did what anyone would do," he said finally. "No, you did what no one else would do. That is the difference." The queen leaned forward. "My people spoke of humans as primitives, weak creatures who had stumbled into space by accident. They said the alliance with Earth was a sign of decline. And now they speak of Lee, the human who kept his word when everyone else broke theirs, the soldier who fought until his body could not fight anymore and then fought some more." Her 4 eyes shone with something that might have been tears. "You changed how my people see humanity. You showed them that strength is not about size or speed or power. It is about what you do when everything is lost. Did not know what to say. He had not fought for glory or reputation. He had fought because of a promise made to a dead brother. He had fought because he could not stand by while someone suffered. "Your friend is here," the Queen said, changing the subject. "She has visited every day. She will be happy to know you are awake." "Saved us." "She did. When she received your signal, she commandeered a rescue shuttle and flew directly into space. She did not wait for permission. She did not follow protocol." The Queen shook her head. Earth Coalition Command was very unhappy. They wanted to court-martial her. Frowned and I informed them that if they punished the woman who rescued me, I would consider it a personal insult to the Dominion. They decided to give her a medal instead. Despite everything, laughed. It hurt his chest, but he laughed anyway. The Queen stood. "I should let you rest. The physicians say you need several more weeks to fully heal." She paused at the door. "When you are recovered, I would like to speak with you about your future." "My future?" "Your assignment to the palace was temporary, a diplomatic gesture as your director reminded you so often, but circumstances have changed. I find myself in need of soldiers I can trust." She looked back at him. "I am offering you a position, Lee, first guardian of the crown. You would lead my new royal guard, not as a symbol but as a true protector." Stared at her. "First guardian, Majesty, I am human. Your people would never accept." "My people will accept what I tell them to accept. And I am telling them that Lee saved my life and my throne when every guard abandoned me. If anyone has a problem with that, they can take it up with me personally." She smiled. It was a real smile, warm and genuine. "Think about it. You do not need to decide now." Then she was gone. Lay in the healing chamber, staring at the ceiling. First guardian, a command position in the military. It was beyond anything he had ever imagined. He thought about Earth, his small apartment, his empty life, the guilt he carried like a stone around his neck. He thought about the smile, the kindness, the grave he had never visited. For 4 years had been running from his failure, running from the pain, running from the truth that he could not save his brother. But maybe, just maybe, he had finally stopped running. Maybe he had found something worth staying for. The ceremony took place 6 weeks later. The obsidian throne room had been restored. New banners hung from the ceiling. New guards stood at attention. The bone table had been repaired and polished. Thousands of citizens filled the gallery. Nobles, military commanders, foreign diplomats stood near the front, wearing her Earth Coalition dress uniform, tears streaming down her face. Queen sat on her throne, wearing robes of pure white. Her crown caught the light of the twin suns streaming through the windows. And before her, kneeling on one knee, was Lee. He wore the uniform of the Royal Guard, black and silver, with a symbol on the chest that he did not recognize. The Queen had told him it was an ancient mark, used only for those who had proven themselves beyond all doubt. "Lee of Earth," the Queen announced, her voice filling the room. "You came to us as a stranger. You were given no respect. You were dismissed as a symbol, a decoration, an insect among giants." The room was silent. Every eye was on the small human kneeling before the throne. "But when darkness fell, you stood in the light. When my guards betrayed me, you remained loyal. When death reached for me, you placed yourself in its path." The Queen's voice grew stronger. "You have shown the Dominion what true honor means. You have taught my people that courage is not measured in size but in heart." She stepped down from the throne and approached him. In her hands she carried a ceremonial blade, ancient, beautiful, worth more than most cities. She placed the blade across his shoulders. "Rise, Lee, first guardian of the crown." Rose. The room erupted in applause. Warriors bowed their heads. Nobles struck their fists against their chests in the traditional salute. Even the foreign diplomats looked impressed. but was not looking at them. He was looking at the window where the twin suns painted the sky in gold and red. He was thinking of the brother who had died protecting strangers, of the promise that had haunted him for 4 years. I will never let someone stand alone again. He had kept his word, not just once but again and again, until his body broke and his blood soaked the ancient stones. And somehow, against all odds, he had survived. Caught his eye from the crowd. She was crying and laughing at the same time. She gave him a small wave. He nodded back. The queen returned to her throne. Around her, the new royal guard stood at attention, and humans side by side, a new beginning for the Dominion. And at their head, standing small but unbreakable, was Lee. The human who stayed. The soldier who kept his promise. The man who proved that some things, honor, loyalty, love, transcended species and size and all the barriers the galaxy tried to build. The story would spread to other worlds, other systems, other species who thought they knew what humans were. They would hear the tale of the Eclipse coup and the human who an empire. And they would learn. Humanity was not primitive. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was something else entirely. Something wonderful. Something terrifying. Something worth remembering. And Lee, standing in the light of the twin suns, finally felt the weight lift from his shoulders. The guilt he had carried for 4 years, the failure, the shame, the endless what-ifs, all of it faded. He had kept his promise too. And that made all the difference.